Choking agents. Chlorine and phosgene were the first chemical weapons deployed on a modern battlefield, beginning with the German release at Ypres on April 22, 1915. Both destroy the lungs. Chlorine's yellow-green cloud and sharp smell gave soldiers a few seconds of warning. Phosgene gave none. Colorless, with only a faint smell of freshly cut hay, it caused lung damage that appeared hours after exposure. As the gases reacted with moisture inside the lungs, they broke down the tissue lining the air sacs. Fluid accumulated. Men who had walked away from the cloud drowned overnight. Phosgene alone was responsible for an estimated 80% of all chemical weapon fatalities in World War I. Blister agents. Sulfur mustard and nitrogen mustard are compounds that damage DNA on contact and destroy tissue from the inside out. Sulfur mustard, the more widely used of the two, is an oily liquid that disperses as a fine mist. It attacks any moist surface: skin, eyes, the respiratory tract, the digestive system. Its most dangerous property is a delayed onset of 2 to 24 hours, which prevents immediate decontamination. By the time blisters form across the skin and the eyes swell shut, the compound has already penetrated deep into the tissue. Most casualties survived but were incapacitated for weeks. Germany first deployed sulfur mustard at Ypres in 1917. Iraq used it against Kurdish civilians at Halabja in 1988. UN investigators confirmed its use in Syria in 2015. Nitrogen mustard works by the same mechanism, but was found to suppress bone marrow, a property that led directly to the first chemotherapy drugs in the 1940s. Lewisite, an arsenic-based blister agent developed by the United States, causes immediate pain on contact rather than delayed onset. Britain developed a direct antidote, British anti-Lewisite, specifically to counter it. Blood agents. Hydrogen cyanide and cyanogen chloride enter the bloodstream through inhalation and reach every cell in the body within seconds. They block the enzyme cells used to convert oxygen into energy. The body begins shutting down even as the blood remains fully oxygenated, a form of internal suffocation invisible to standard oxygen monitoring. Death occurs within minutes at sufficient concentration. Japan used hydrogen cyanide agents against Chinese civilians in the 1930s as part of its chemical weapons program in occupied territories. The Soviet Union maintained large stockpiles throughout the Cold War. Cyanogen chloride also damages the lungs directly, making it harder to treat than hydrogen cyanide alone. Vomiting agents. Adamsite and related arsenic compounds cause intense irritation of the nose, throat, and upper respiratory tract within minutes of exposure, followed by nausea, vomiting, severe headache, and uncontrollable sneezing. They were not designed to kill, but to force soldiers to remove their gas masks, exposing them to more lethal agents being delivered simultaneously. The United States developed Adamsite in 1918 and issued it to troops, but the compound arrived too late for use in World War I. At typical concentrations, vomiting agents are not acutely lethal, but prolonged exposure in confined spaces causes persistent respiratory damage and can be fatal. Nerve agents, G-series. Tabun, sarin, soman, and cyclosarin were synthesized by German chemists studying agricultural pesticides in the late 1930s. All four work by blocking acetylcholinesterase, the enzyme that clears nerve signals from the junction between a nerve and a muscle after firing. When that clearing mechanism fails, every junction fires continuously. Muscles cannot relax. Glands secrete without stopping. Pupils constrict to pinpoints. Convulsions follow. At a lethal dose, the muscles controlling breathing lock. Atropine slows the cascade by blocking the receptor that receives the signal rather than restoring the enzyme. A second drug can partially reactivate the enzyme itself if given within the first hour. Iraq used sarin and tabun at Halabja in 1988, killing between 3,200 and 5,000 civilians, the largest confirmed chemical weapons attack against a civilian population in history. In 1995, the Japanese cult Aum Shinrikyo released sarin on 5 Tokyo subway lines, killing 13 people and sending nearly 1,000 to hospital with severe symptoms. Nerve agents, V-series. VX was developed from compounds first discovered by British chemists in the early 1950s and subsequently weaponized by the United States. It is an oily, nearly odorless liquid that does not evaporate readily, leaving it active in the environment for days to weeks after deployment. It works by the same mechanism as the G-series, blocking the enzyme that clears nerve signals, but penetrates intact skin far more effectively than sarin. The lethal skin dose is approximately 10 milligrams. The United States and Soviet Union both produced large stockpiles before the Chemical Weapons Convention required declared quantities to be destroyed. In February 2017, Kim Jong-nam, the half-brother of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, was killed at Kuala Lumpur International Airport when two individuals separately applied VX to his face. He died within minutes. Novichok. Novichok, Russian for newcomer, is a class of nerve agents developed by the Soviet Union beginning in the 1970s under a classified program. They block the same nerve-clearing enzyme as VX, but are estimated to be 5 to 10 times more potent. Some variants are effective through skin contact at sub-milligram quantities. Standard antidotes designed for earlier nerve agents offer only partial protection. The program's existence was not publicly known until Soviet chemist Zayanov disclosed it in 1992. In March 2018, former Russian military intelligence officer Sergei Skripal and his daughter Yulia were poisoned with a Novichok agent applied to the front door handle of his home in Salisbury, England. Both survived after weeks of critical care. 4 months later, a local woman named Dawn Sturgis was fatally poisoned after her partner found a discarded perfume bottle that had been used to transport the agent. She died 8 days after exposure. Incapacitating agents. BZ is a compound that works in the opposite direction from a nerve agent. Where nerve agents cause nerve junctions to fire without stopping, BZ prevents signals from reaching their targets at all. At an effective dose, it produces disorientation, hallucinations, and delirium lasting up to 72 hours. Heart rate rises, body temperature climbs, and the ability to form new memories collapses entirely. The United States studied BZ through the 1960s as a potential non-lethal weapon and conducted trials on military volunteers at Edgewood Arsenal in Maryland. Its strategic logic was logistical. Soldiers who require evacuation and care consume more enemy resources than soldiers who are killed. BZ remains controlled under the Chemical Weapons Convention. Riot control agents. CS gas is the most widely deployed riot control agent in the world. It causes immediate burning of the eyes, nose, and throat, involuntary tearing, and temporary blindness. Symptoms resolve within minutes of leaving the affected area. The Chemical Weapons Convention explicitly permits riot control agents for domestic law enforcement, but prohibits their use as a method of warfare. The distinction is legal, not chemical. Pepper spray works differently, activating pain receptors directly rather than damaging tissue. CR gas, developed in Britain in the 1960s, is approximately 6 times more potent than CS and more resistant to water decontamination, making it more effective outdoors but harder to contain. White phosphorus. White phosphorus is not classified as a chemical weapon under the Chemical Weapons Convention, which categorizes it as an incendiary. When exposed to air, it ignites spontaneously and burns at around 800 degrees Celsius. It cannot be extinguished with water. Submersion stops the burn, but the compound reignites immediately on air contact. It penetrates deeply into tissue and continues burning until it is either fully consumed or completely deprived of oxygen. The United States used white phosphorus against combatants in Fallujah in 2004, a use the Pentagon later acknowledged, after initially describing it as illumination only. Israel deployed it over densely populated areas of Gaza in 2009, which Human Rights Watch and the UN documented as a violation of international humanitarian law. The legal debate centers on intent. White phosphorus is permitted for smokescreens and illumination, but prohibited as a direct weapon against personnel. Thanks for watching. Which of these chemical weapons scare you the most? Let me know in the comments down below. Also, please remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video.